After completing my degree, I was hired as the Assistant City Manager in the city of Canandaigua, New York. As Assistant City Manager, I was tasked with the city's environmental initiatives, and it quickly became my favorite part of the job. During my tenure, I guided the city to both a Clean Energy Communities designation as well as a Climate Smart Communities Bronze certification, something I still consider one of my greatest professional accomplishments. When the chance to replace Haley Farrington as the Clean Energy Communities Coordinator in this region became available, the opportunity was too good to pass up. I'm elated to be here and excited to work with other communities to reduce their environmental impact and to help them achieve both their clean energy and sustainability goals. In my spare time, I coach 2 soccer teams. I've been the boys varsity soccer assistant at Harley-Allendale Columbia, or HAC, for 16 years now, and I also coach the Canandaigua Attack Boys U18 team. I'll now turn it over to my partner on this project, Jenny Loewenstein, to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Jenny Loewenstein, and I'm a planner with the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council. I have a bachelor's degree in landscape architecture from SUNY Environmental Science and Forestry, and after several years working for an engineering firm, I decided to go back to school to pursue my master's in urban affairs at Boston University. While pursuing my master's degree, I worked for the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, working on a long-range planning initiative for the MBTA, which entailed a huge public outreach campaign. I recently returned back to the East Coast from living in Seattle for 3 years, where I worked for King County, a housing nonprofit, and a transportation consultant, working on comprehensive plans, housing policy with local legislators, and drafting parking action plans for the municipalities. The main driver in moving back to New York and taking this position with GFL was not only to be closer to my family, but also to be able to make an impact where I grew up and be able to work directly with communities. So again, I'm really excited you joined us here this morning to learn more about the CEC program and how Genesee Finger Lakes can assist you. Next slide.
Thank you, Jenny. As you likely know, the CEC 2.0 program is an updated program offering. The initial Clean Energy Communities program kicked off in 2016 with the goal of helping municipalities across New York State save money on energy expenditures while reducing their carbon footprint. To become a designated clean energy community, municipalities needed to complete 4 high-impact action items and submit them to NYSERDA for approval. The program included 10 high-impact action items communities could choose from, with early actors earning grant funding once receiving their CEC designation. Next slide, please. Here, you can see the 10 high-impact action items included in the first iteration of the CEC program. The items included benchmarking, clean energy upgrades, LED streetlight conversion, clean fleets, a solarized clean heating and cooling campaign, the unified solar permit, energy code enforcement training, climate smart community certification, CPACE financing, and community choice aggregation. While some communities chose to continue the program and complete more than the 4 required high impact action items, others chose to stop after receiving their Clean Energy Communities designation. Next slide, please. This map illustrates how successful the first iteration of the CEC program was. In total, 600 communities engaged the program statewide, with over half of them receiving a Clean Energy Community designation. Incredibly, almost 1,900 high-impact action items were completed in the first 5 years of the program, with our region acting as a strong contributor. Next slide, please. This shows the contribution our region made to the totals on the previous slide. As you can see, we had strong participation with 76 participating communities, 36 designated communities, and 219 completed high-impact action items. My goal as your CEC coordinator is to do whatever is needed to support our communities. I want to grow participation in the program across our region while ensuring each of our communities gets the personalized approach that's needed for success. This is important because the needs of all communities are not the same, and each community has its own path forward to achieve the benchmarks laid out in the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. Next slide, please. During the first iteration of the Clean Energy Communities program, The state adopted nation-leading legislation empowering all New Yorkers to fight climate change at home, at work, and in their communities. In 2019, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, also known as the Climate Act, was enacted, setting some ambitious energy goals moving forward. These goals include having 70% of all electric come from renewable sources and a 40% reduction in GHGs statewide by 2030. By 2050, the state anticipates 100% of electric use statewide will come from renewable sources, and an 85% reduction in GHGs statewide will occur by 2050. In an effort to help communities achieve these benchmarks, NYSERDA has introduced the Clean Energy Communities Program 2.0. This program includes new high-impact action items and a variety of grant funding opportunities to encourage and incentivize municipalities to be true leaders in achieving the state's long-term energy goals. Next slide, please. The 2.0 version of Clean Energy's Community, the Leadership Round, shows both NYSERDA's commitment to helping communities find success as well as fund future clean energy initiatives. In total, the state has allocated $17 million to this program to help incentivize communities and provide funding to help municipalities complete projects they might not be able to do otherwise. NYSERDA has created toolkits for each high-impact action item, including fact sheets, step-by-step guidance, frequently asked questions, template documents and legislation, and other resources to help municipalities choose and complete the HIAs that fit their community best. In addition to the toolkits, the program also provides each region with a Clean Energy Communities Coordinator, me, to help guide you through the process. Please feel free to reach out with anything you need. We want to make this process as easy and stress-free as we can for our participating municipalities. Our goal is not just to help our communities find success in the program, but also to ensure they receive the recognition they deserve as leaders in the state's energy initiatives. Next slide, please. In total, there are 4 different grant opportunities included in this round of the CEC. These include designation grants, points-based grants, action item grants, and bonus grants for disadvantaged communities. As you can see, there's a lot of money available, and the best part is there is absolutely no municipal match. By completing 4 high-impact action items, newly designated clean energy communities will automatically receive a $5,000 grant. Large communities who choose to complete more than 4 items can access up to $250,000 in points-based grants, while small to medium municipalities can access up to $100,000. Large communities can also access up to an additional $110,000 in action grants through adopting the New York Stretch Energy Code and community campaigns, while smaller communities can access up to an additional $25,000. Any points-based or action grant award of $20,000 or more in a New York State disadvantaged community may automatically be eligible for an additional $10,000 award. There are 90 of these awards for eligible communities statewide. If you have any questions about eligibility, please let us know. All grant awards are available on a first-come, first-served basis, so the sooner communities get started, the better. Next slide, please. Similar to the first iteration of the Clean Energy Communities Program, municipalities who complete 4 high-impact action items to earn CEC designation will receive a one-time grant of $5,000. At least 2 of the HIAs must have been completed after August 1st, 2016, and the funding is available retroactively to any community who received designation but did not receive a grant prior to January 26, 2021. Communities who did not receive a grant because they missed an application deadline are not eligible to receive the designation grant. Communities will be notified by email of the award and have 90 days to claim it. Otherwise, they forfeit the funding. Next slide, please. Unlike the original version of the Clean Energy Communities Program, the Leadership Round awards points for each high-impact action item a municipality completes. The more energy an action saves, the higher the points available. These points add up and unlock additional funding for municipalities who reach the 3,000, 4,000, or 5,000 point thresholds. The more points you accumulate, the more grant funding you're eligible for. Next slide, please. For large municipalities who accrue 3,000 plus points, there are 50 awards of $30,000 available statewide. For large municipalities who reach the 4,000 point threshold, there are 20 awards of $70,000 available statewide. Should a large municipality choose to pursue and achieve the 5,000 point threshold, there are 10 awards of $150,000 available statewide. Should a community achieve all 3 point thresholds, they could be awarded a total of $250,000. The points-based grants for small municipalities of less than 40,000 residents are awarded regionally. For small municipalities who accrue 3,000 plus points, there are 40 awards of $10,000 available per region. For small municipalities who reach the 4,000 point threshold, there are 10 awards of $20,000 available per region. Should a small municipality choose to pursue and achieve the 5,000 point threshold, there are 4 awards of $70,000 available per region. Should a small community achieve all 3 point thresholds, they could be awarded a total of $100,000. Next slide, please. This slide lists the high impact action items that are included in the CEC 2.0, including the point totals awarded for completion. Actions with a set number of points, like the 500 for clean energy upgrades, are single level actions. Actions with ranges, like benchmarking, include sub-actions that each come with their own point total allocations. You'll notice that all 10 high impact action items from the first iteration of the program have remained. Some have expanded and 3 have been added. These items are clean heating and cooling demo, 100% renewable energy, and New York stretch code adoption. You'll also notice that 2 of the high impact actions have an action grant attached. That's the 3rd type of grant funding available in this program that we'll cover on the next slide. Before transitioning, I want to point out that there are 2 hyperlinks in the bottom right-hand corner of this slide, one to submit HIAs and another to access the toolkits for all of the listed HIAs. As mentioned in the beginning, all of the hyperlinks in this presentation are live and will direct you to that webpage. Next slide, please. As mentioned on the prior slide, 2 of the high impact action items have additional grant opportunities for communities who move quickly. The first of these action grants pertains to adopting the New York stretch code. The first 40 large municipalities to adopt the stretch code will receive an additional grant award of $50,000, while the first 100 small to medium communities to adopt the code will receive an additional $5,000. To qualify for a grant award, legislation must be enacted and take effect no later than December 31st, 2021. The second high impact action eligible for action grant is community campaigns. To qualify, communities must perform campaigns to promote program opportunities in one of 4 areas: community solar, electric vehicles, clean heating, cooling, energy efficiency, and demand response. We will discuss both of these high impact action items in more detail shortly. Next slide, please. I will now turn it over to Jenny, who will discuss each of the high impact items included in the leadership round.
Thank you, Rob. The next slides will provide an overview of each of the high impact actions available for communities. Each of the slides will have information on why communities should pursue these high impact actions, along with a description of the action, the number of points gained by completing the action, as well as eligibility and submission requirements of that action. All of these actions are designed to save municipalities money, stimulate the economy, and help communities earn the recognition for their work and grant awards to fund future green initiatives. Next slide, please. The Unified Solar Permit Action is designed to streamline and expedite the approval process for installing small-scale solar in a community. Implementing the standardized permit application will help the process be much simpler for residents and cut costs by decreasing the overall installation time. This action is worth 200 points. Next slide, please. Here at GFL, we can provide template legislation and permits to streamline the process for municipalities, as well as any support needed to assemble or complete NYSERDA documentation. This is one of the easier high-impact action items for communities to complete and a great starting point for a community just getting started in this program. Next slide, please. Energy Code Enforcement Training provides free training on the current New York State Energy Code. The training walks code compliance officers through best practice in energy code enforcement in both new construction and commercial and residential renovations. Completing the training gives communities the opportunities for significant energy savings and improved code compliance. This action is worth 200 points. Next slide, please. Currently, we are working with NYSERDA to schedule code enforcement trainings, and they will be available in Q4. Once we have scheduled these events, we will make sure to send out and publish the dates, times, and locations of those trainings. We will also help get certificates to municipalities for submission once code officers complete the training. Next slide, please. Authorizing property-assessed clean energy financing enables eligible commercial or nonprofit buildings to secure funds for permanent renewable energy projects and upgrades. Once adopted, PACE financing becomes part of a community's economic development strategy. Municipalities can receive credit for authorizing a PACE program or for closing on a PACE finance project. Only cities and counties within the Genesee Finger Lakes region are eligible to enact PACE financing. However, once enacted at the county level, the property owners and nonprofits in all municipalities in that county can access PACE financing. This action is worth between 200 and 500 points. Next slide, please. Genesee Finger Lakes will help put eligible municipalities in touch with our contacts at the Energy Improvement Corporation, who will then work with the municipality to enact legislation. Our contact at the EIC also provides templates for the legislation and the municipal agreement, as well as additional support for municipalities trying to enact CPACE financing. Your Genesee Finger Lakes team can also help organize and promote events to raise awareness of CPACE financing in your business community and help with the NYSERDA documentation needed for submission. Next slide, please. The Clean Energy Upgrades Action positions municipalities to save energy and money by replacing old equipment with new, more efficient technologies. Municipalities must achieve a minimum 10% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from permanent energy efficiency improvements to municipal buildings and infrastructure. A reduction in greenhouse gas emissions may also be achieved from renewable energy sources, such as solar, wind, and geothermal. There are multiple levels of submission requirements to achieve this action. We will assist you with the benchmarking requirements by utilizing the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, as well as assisting in submitting this documentation. This action will gain your community 500 points. Next slide, please. At Genesee Finger Lakes, we can help the municipality set up their Energy Star Portfolio Manager, including the gathering and collection of the necessary energy data. We can also assist with the NYSERDA's Clean Energy Upgrades Calculator to demonstrate that the upgrades meet the necessary reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and ensure an accurate calculation to quantify impact. We can also help assemble the documentation for submission to prevent the item being rejected initially, which can happen if the calculation is off or the right information is not submitted. Next slide, please. The clean heating and cooling demo action requires communities to install either air or ground source heat pumps or solar hot water systems in at least one municipal building that is 1,000 square feet or larger and open to the public year-round. The building must be owned or operated by the local government. The recently converted or built building must utilize the new technology as the building's primary heating, cooling, and hot water systems. This action is worth 500 points. Next slide, please. We can provide information on a variety of clean heating and cooling technologies and identify which ones are best suited for a specific project or application. We can also connect interested municipalities with potential grant funding and help educate communities on the benefits of utilizing this technology. We're currently working with our partners at Pathstone to create a webinar on some of the programs available in our region and how they connect with the CEC program. Those will hopefully be available within the coming months. Next slide, please. To highlight your community's leadership, you can purchase 100% renewable energy for their electric needs. This item allows municipalities to purchase 100% renewable energy credits from New York State to offset what your community uses for electric consumption and reduce its carbon footprint. These certificates need to be retired through the New York State Generation Attribute Tracking System, or NIGATS. All the renewable energy needs to be generated in New York State to qualify. This action will receive your community 500 points. Next slide, please. We are currently working with NYSERDA to understand the renewable energy credits, RECs. We're hoping to connect municipalities to the RECs market so they can offset usage and reduce their carbon footprint. This is a new high-impact action item, and the Clean Energy Communities coordinators statewide are working with NYSERDA to clarify and simplify this high-impact action for municipalities. If you have specific questions pertaining to your municipality, we should make a meeting offline. Next slide, please. The Climate Smart Communities program provides local governments with a framework for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and building a climate resilient community. While the CEC program focuses on clean energy, the CSC program is a much larger initiative. In addition to requiring legislation from the community, officially taking the Climate Smart Communities pledge, the program requires the formation of a Climate Smart Communities group to lead this initiative. These community groups are often comprised of volunteers, community activists, or an environmental advisory council who can champion both the CSC and CEC programs. This is a really great opportunity to get your local climate advocates involved and create a strong relationship between municipal staff and community leaders. A bronze certification is worth 600 points, while a silver certification is worth 800 points. Next slide, please. Once your community group is organized, we can help your municipality identify the best course of action to move forward with this program. We'll look at what your community has already completed and what might be eligible for submission and help select the high priority actions that are right for your community and assist with the submission process. We can also help identify overlaps between the CEC and the CSC programs so your municipality can maximize the benefits of both programs. Next slide, please. The LED streetlight action requires communities to convert at least half of the streetlights to LEDs for cobra heads or decoratives. With communities with less than 20 fixtures, a minimum of 10 fixtures is required. For communities on the fence on completing this action, we can provide a cost analysis report that outlines the energy and cost savings that comes with the conversion to LEDs. The conversion of at least 50% of the streetlights is worth 700 points, while replacing them with decorative fixtures can earn your community an additional 200 points. In total, a possible 900 points is available for this action. Next slide, please. At Genesee Finger Lakes, we can provide you with a utility calculator to help with the cost-benefit analysis of doing the conversion project. We can also support you by providing timelines for project completion and connecting you with other municipalities who have completed this high-impact action. By speaking to them, municipalities can learn from each other to avoid challenges communities faced during their own process and ensure their municipal conversion project is successful. We can also help with the submission, as this can be tricky. Next slide, please. The benchmarking action requires communities to adopt legislation requiring the tracking of energy use in municipal buildings that are 1,000 square feet or larger for a total of 100 points. There is also the opportunity to complete advanced reporting of a building's energy use by utilizing the Energy Star Portfolio Manager for an additional 200 points. Eligible cities, towns, and villages can pass legislation requiring private buildings, such as a commercial and multifamily buildings of 25,000 square feet and larger, to benchmark their energy use as well for an additional 800 points. In total, there's a potential 1,100 points available for this action for eligible communities. All communities are eligible for benchmarking municipal buildings and advanced reporting. Only large cities, towns, and villages are eligible for the large private building action. Next slide, please. Here at Genesee Finger Lakes, we do everything we can to help simplify this action for our communities. In addition to providing template benchmarking legislation, we also help gather the necessary building information and energy data. After helping the municipality set up its Energy Star Portfolio Manager, we'll help enter the back energy data to establish the baseline for the advanced recording portion of the high impact action. We also provide support and training for municipalities on how to manage the Energy Star portfolio once we've established it. This is another high impact action that can be a bit confusing, but our goal is to make this as streamlined and stress-free as possible for the communities we work with. Next slide, please. The Clean Fleets action is designed to make the transition to electric vehicles even smoother by incentivizing municipalities to install EV charging stations in their communities. In addition to charging stations, the Clean Fleets action has expanded since the first offering of the CEC program to include the deployment of light to heavy-duty electric vehicles. Charging stations can be leased or purchased, while electric vehicles must be purchased. This action can gain your community between 100 and 1,000 points, depending on the sub-action you choose to take. Next slide, please. We can connect municipalities to grants and other funding opportunities to subsidize the cost of installing EV charging stations or purchasing hybrid or plug-in electric vehicles. We can also provide guidance and support on the eligibility of potential technologies and assist with submission to NYSERDA. This is another high-impact action that is relatively simple to complete, and many communities choose to utilize Clean Fleets as one of the 4 high-impact actions required for designation. Next slide, please. Community choice aggregation is one of our favorites here at GFL. This action can bring lower energy prices to your community by aggregating demand to obtain 100% renewable energy for the entire community. This is an opt-out program and can take anywhere from 7 to 18 months for communities to complete. Interested communities are connected with a local administrator who can negotiate lower prices from the utility companies by pooling electricity and consumer buying power. The third-party administrator also provides the the administrative and technical support for the municipality, so the burden of facilitating the program does not fall on staff. This item is worth 1,500 points. In addition to this item, there's an opt-out community solar program in conjunction with CCA. In the first offering, community solar was done on an opt-in basis. This would allow communities to earn an additional 500 points for having no less than 50% or 600 accounts, whatever is greater, of residential and small commercial electric accounts enrolled in opt-out community solar. Next slide, please. We can help communities in the third-party administrator selection process, as well as provide template legislation, MOUs, and other supporting documentation. We can also help communities organize and promote events that raise awareness of community choice aggregation and opt-out community solar. Community education is a key part of the success of any CCA initiative. Next slide, please. The adoption of the New York State Stretch Energy Code action helps communities meet their energy and climate goals by accelerating the savings met through their local building energy codes. New York Stretch can provide savings of 11% over the current 2020 New York State Energy Code. In general, the State Energy Code is updated every 3 to 4 years. The current code, adopted in March 2020, was considered the Stretch Code when developed in 2017. The Stretch Code included in this version of the CEC will be the base energy code at some point in 2023. Choosing to be an early adopter will put your community ahead of the curve while receiving points and potential grant funding for showcasing your community leadership. Once adopted, Stretch Energy Code will give communities 1,200 points. As an action grant, the first 40 large communities who adopt Stretch Energy Code can receive $50,000, and the first 100 small to medium communities who adopt can receive $5,000. To qualify for this grant award, legislation must be enacted and taken into effect no later than December 31st, 2021. Next slide, please. Genesee Finger Lakes can provide template legislation as well as connect communities with the circuit riders, who are NYSERDA's support team for this high impact action. The circuit riders are subject matter experts and can answer any questions raised by a community. They're available to speak to boards and community groups as well, and serve as an education partner for this high impact action. Josh Stack is this region's circuit rider and is a wealth of information, and we'd be happy to connect you with him. Next slide, please. Like New York Stretch Energy Code adoption, the Community Campaigns Action has an associated action grant. Communities can take on one of the following campaign types to earn 200 points for each campaign. Campaigns include community solar, electric vehicles, clean heating and cooling, and energy efficiency, as well as demand response. The first 40 large communities can receive $15,000, and the first 100 small to medium communities can receive $5,000 upon completion of a campaign. A single campaign can cover multiple technologies. For example, if a community wanted to do a comprehensive campaign and include all 4 options, a large community could earn $60,000, while a small to medium community could earn an additional $20,000. These action grants are awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. Communities must submit the NYSERDA scoping document and have the campaign approved prior to starting the campaign in order to receive credit. Approvals for campaigns already underway will not be awarded retroactively. So please reach out to us with assistance on your scoping document so you can receive credit. Next slide, please. The Genesee Finger Lakes team and our network can offer a variety of support to completing community campaigns. In addition to helping with scoping, we can also help coordinate with NYSERDA, provide template RFPs, help with contractor interviews, and connect communities with campaign partners. We can help develop promotional materials, offer support on social media, and aid with other campaign needs to ensure a successful initiative. The goal of these campaigns is to be a community-led effort, so we'll put you in touch with the right partners. Next slide, please. And as a recap, this is a chart showing all the high impact actions included in this program, and which communities are eligible to complete them. If you have any questions about this chart or whether or not your community is eligible to complete a high impact action, please let us know. And now I'll turn it back over to Rob to discuss the grant submission process and close out the presentation.
Next slide, please. Thank you, Jenny. Finally, the fun part, the grant submission process. Guidance on grant submission can be found on pages 22 to 24 of the PON guidance document. NYSERDA will notify all communities qualifying for a grant by email. The applicant has 3 months from the date of notification to submit their application. Projects must start within 6 months of approval notification and can be completed within 3 years of approval notification. Grants of $5,000 will be paid in full by check and not require a project submission. Grants of larger than $5,000 require municipalities to either propose a pre-approved project or submit for a custom project for approval. An application extension of up to 2 months may be granted per award and requires NYSERDA approval. Requests for extensions should be submitted in writing to CEC at nyserda.ny.gov. Next slide, please. Here is a list of projects the leadership round grant funding can be used for that are already approved by NYSERDA. These include LED streetlight conversion, solar installations, the purchase of hybrid or EV vehicles, the installation of charging stations, building upgrades, and the implementation of energy efficiency projects. Municipalities also have the ability to do custom projects. These projects must meet at least 70% of the criteria explained on page 23 of the PON and be approved by NYSERDA before they can begin. Approval can take up to 6 weeks. If a custom project is not approved on the first submission by NYSERDA, the municipality can make adjustments and resubmit. If a municipality wanted to explore custom projects, our team at Genesee Finger Lakes can help you with the development and submission of that application. Next slide, please. This slide contains hyperlinks to the CEC program information. These include the program website, videos of municipalities implementing CEC, the PON guidance document, high impact action item overviews by available points, a link to all the HIA toolkits, and additional information on the grant funding within the leadership round. This is where you find the application attachment that you need to submit through the NYSERDA portal when you apply for your grant application. There's also a link to the grants dashboard. This updates in real time and shows how many of each type of grant award are still available in each region. It helps your community keep tabs on what is still available and helps set priority timelines to complete HIAs to submit for points and funding. There are also links to determine if your community qualifies as disadvantaged, the CEC High Impact Action Submission Portal, the Climate Smart Communities Program website, and lastly, the community scorecards. These scorecards will provide a snapshot of the progress your municipality has made, as well as allow you to track the progress of other communities. All of these hyperlinks are live and will take you to the correct page. Next slide, please. Perhaps your biggest resources, however, are Jenny and me. If we can stress one thing, it's that we're here to help. We're genuinely invested in the success, not just of the CEC program, but the communities that we work with. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions or need help getting started. And with that, we'll happily answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you, Rob and Jenny, for that great presentation. A lot of information in there. As Rob mentioned, we will be posting this presentation probably as a PDF with the live hyperlinks in the next few days. We'll get that up for folks. Are there any, let me just check again. I don't see any questions in the chat room. Does anybody have any questions at this point? I will try to watch the raise your hand feature if you're familiar with that aspect of Zoom.
It might be beneficial if we discussed maybe the 4 high impact action items that a community typically will start with, especially if they're new to this program and coming into this round without engaging in the program too much in the last round. Rob, if you want to discuss what those 4 action items may be.
Yeah, so a lot of the high impact action items that are really popular with communities just getting started are benchmarking, simply because it's a piece of legislation and that gets you a completed action item. And then as we get you to the advanced reporting feature, we can get you another completed item and some more points. Another really popular action that people tend to do initially is clean fleets, particularly because there is funding available for the NYSERDA charging stations, as well as the installation of those charging stations. And then it really kind of varies based on the community and some of the progress that they may have already made. A lot of communities come into this program and realize, oh my goodness, we've already done some of this stuff and we can already submit some of the stuff for points. So one that's been really popular has been the streetlight conversion. In particular, communities who had some money available and started that process prior to there being grant funding available, they're now re-engaging this program and are going to use potentially some of the grant funding that they earned to offset the cost of completing that project. So those are some that, you can get started fairly quickly and that you can have really good results with and have a quick turnaround. And then really it's based on what actions are going to be best for your community. And that's where Jenny and I really like to take the time to sit down with everybody, look at their community specifically, talk about what their goals are and what they're trying to accomplish so that we can really start to tailor a plan for them and set a path forward so that they can accomplish their clean energy goals.
Okay, well, I am not seeing any questions or raised hands. So any final words, Jenny or Rob, at this point?
As Jason mentioned, we're going to send out the slide deck from today's presentation, as well as a link to the recording. So if you go back and you review those and you find that you have questions, or if you just want that to get our contact information to set up an appointment to speak about your municipality specifically, please just reach out to us. I love talking to new municipalities and kind of finding out where everybody is. And as weird as this sounds, this really is something that I'm super passionate about. So I get very excited to talk to people who are interested in doing this work.
Thanks, Rob. Jenny?
I think Rob just about covered it, but thank you all for being here this morning and spending your time with us. And please reach out to us if you have any questions about this program, how to get your community started in this program. And again, we want to reiterate that we're here to demystify this process and make this as easy as possible for you all.
And thank you both.